If two Indian citizens live next door to each other, should their rights in marriage, divorce, and inheritance depend on their religion or on their citizenship? The Uniform Civil Code debate begins with this very question. Hello everyone, my name is Rajni Jha. Welcome to Drishti IAS. Today we will discuss one of the most debated constitutional and political issues in contemporary India, the proposed implementation of UCC in the state of West Bengal. Let's get started. The State Cabinet of West Bengal has approved the formation of a committee to examine the draft UCC Bill 2026. This committee will be headed by Ranjana Prakash Desai, a retired judge of Supreme Court. It has been given 4 weeks to study the draft and submit recommendations. And the government intends to introduce this bill in the State Assembly during the extended budget session in August 2026. But the real question is, what is UCC? UCC is a common set of civil laws applicable to all the citizens irrespective of their religion. It covers marriage, divorce, inheritance and succession, adoption, guardianship and child custody, and maintenance. Right now, these are governed by religion-based personal laws. For example, Hindu law, Muslim personal law, Parsi law, Christian law, etc. So right now, all these are governed by different personal laws for different communities in the same country. This is called legal plurality. This is called legal plurality. And UCC aims to replace this legal plurality with a uniform legal framework. Now, what is the constitutional basis for UCC? It is given in Article 44 of DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, which says the state shall endeavour to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. What exactly are DPSPs? So DPSPs are general guidelines for governance which were included in the constitution at the time of constitution framing, and all the things that we did not have the resources for at that time, or the society was not ready to accept, but they were the goals we were trying to achieve in future, they were all kept in DPSPs. So DPSPs were and are the future goals decided at the time of constitution formation. Now DPSPs are non-justiciable. As I told you, these were the goals we wanted to achieve, but we could not at the time of constitution framing, because at that time we did not have resources and the society was still fragile and it was not ready. So these are non-justiciable. You cannot go to court saying, oh, this is mentioned in DPSP, but we haven't achieved it yet. So these are non-justiciable, these are non-enforceable, and governments are encouraged to achieve them, but legally they are not compelled to implement them. So UCC is actually there in DPSP. It is given there in DPSP under Article 44. Now there are other states that have moved towards UCC, which are first Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand became the first Indian state to implement UCC framework in 2025 itself. Assam also passed legislation related to UCC in 2026, and now West Bengal is moving towards that area. Now, what are the arguments in favor of UCC? These are the arguments in favor of UCC. First is equality before law, Article 14. Article 14. Now see, right now, for example, a Hindu daughter has equal rights of succession, but a woman belonging to some other community will receive less or may not receive anything at all, depending on the personal laws she belongs to, the personal laws that governs her community. But this is against equality. This is against the principle of equality, right? So that's what they say, that civil rights should depend on citizenship and not religion, because different laws for different communities, that create unequal treatment, and that is against Article 14. The second is gender justice. Now we know that in different religions, women have been subjugated, right? Women were at a disadvantageous position in different religions across India. Now, in some religion, if we make changes, but we don't make changes in other communities, that will create unequal protection for women. So they argue that some personal laws, we know that they have been historically treating women unequally, For example, in matters of inheritance or divorce or maintenance, etc. So UCC is seen as a way to ensure equal treatment and equal rights for all the women. Next is modern state logic. What is modern state logic? Modern state logic is one common law in one country is equal to one citizenship. So modern state should follow one common civil law for all the citizens. It's like having a uniform criminal law. When we have a uniform criminal law, when we have uniform taxation laws, why not have uniform common civil law also? Why are there laws for marriage and divorce different for each community? Why are they dependent on religion? When we have same taxation law for every community, same criminal law for every community, every religion. Next is national integration. Think of it like this. You know, in school we used to wear uniforms, and because everybody in the same school will wear similar uniform, same looking uniform, it created a feeling of unity that we all belong to the same school. It is something like that. A uniform legal framework, it can promote national unity, and therefore it is important for national integration. How? Because it will reduce legal divisions because of the religion-based laws. Next is simplification of laws. If there are too many different personal laws, multiple personal laws, they create legal complexity. They create chaos, inefficiency. There's a lack of clarity and administration becomes difficult. So, if we simplify the laws, it can improve clarity, efficiency, and easier administration. Now, what are some of the arguments against it? What are the arguments against it? First, let's understand the concept that they are trying to build forward, which is they're saying that personal laws are not just laws. They represent one's community identity and community autonomy as well. They represent one's tradition, customs. So they are not just laws, they are representing a community autonomy and someone's identity. If you're saying that the inheritance laws should look like, for example, the inheritance laws should look like the Hindu inheritance law, then aren't you promoting majoritarianism, right? So they are saying that India has cultural diversity. India has spectacular diversity. India is very diverse culturally. It is a socially and culturally diverse country. So it represents the pluralistic nature. Because it is so diverse, we have different culture, religion, customs, etc., practices. So this is very pluralistic in nature. So they are saying that India is highly diverse, and if you bring one common law, one common treatment for everyone, this may weaken this pluralistic social and cultural character that India has. Second, religious freedom concerns. Now, personal laws, they are linked to the religious identity of a person or community autonomy, like I explained to you. So, even if you wish to bring reforms here, first, they should be done through consultation and not imposition. They should not be forced upon. Third, minority apprehensions, like I told you, that minority communities fear that uniform, the word uniform in uniform law, that simply means that we will accept majority practices, and this promotes majoritarianism. Then what about the equal respect for every society or every community? Next, tribal customary practices. I'm sure you know that every tribal community has different unique customary law, right? So if you apply a common code to all of them, that may ignore their special tradition and constitutional protections. But for this, we have a counter argument that in UCC there is tribal exemption. The proposed exemptions, there are proposed exemptions for tribal communities, and that is because we know that several tribal groups have different customary laws, and constitution protections also exist, like in 5th schedule and 6th schedule. So similar exemptions are also there in UCC framework of Uttarakhand, and probably this will also be there in the draft of West Bengal. So we are trying to balance uniformity with pluralism. Next is federalism and states' power to enact UCC. Can state enact UCC? And the answer is yes. States can enact UCC because the subjects such as marriage, divorce, adoption, succession, family law, they all come under the entry 5 of concurrent list in 7th schedule. Concurrent list is the list in which whatever subjects are there, center and state both can enact laws on those subjects. So it is a part of concurrent list. So yes, Parliament and state legislatures both can make laws on this list. However, if there is a clash or conflict, let's say for example, Centre says that the minimum age of marriage should be 21 years for girls, but a particular state says that the minimum age of marriage should be 20 years for girls. Now this is a point of contention, right? This is a point of clash or conflict. So in this case, according to Article 254, Centre will prevail, and this is called doctrine of repugnancy. This is called doctrine of repugnancy, that in case of conflict or clashes in concurrent list subjects, state will be overridden by Centre. Centre will prevail. This is the doctrine of repugnancy. But there is an exception to this. What is the exception? If the state law receives presidential assent, in that case, state law will prevail. So in the same example, when Parliament said that the minimum age, marriage age should be 21, but the state law says it should be 20, and the state got presidential assent, in that case, state law will prevail. But can this be overridden later? Yes, this can be overridden later again by Parliament by enacting another law. Now, this West Bengal initiative reflects experimental federalism. What is that? See, in federalism, we talk about different kinds of federalism. There is cooperative federalism, where the state and center cooperate with each other to make laws, like in case of GST. Or there is competitive federalism, in which states compete with each other to perform better. That is healthy competition, right? The third is experimental federalism or laboratory federalism. Think of state like a laboratory. They try to enact a law or policy in a particular state, and if it performs well, other states also start adopting it. So it was like a laboratory. This is called experimental or laboratory federalism. So West Bengal initiative reflects this experimental or laboratory federalism. Next, do we have any judicial perspective here? Yes. Supreme Court on multiple occasions expressed that we should be moving towards UCC. Example in Shah Bano case or Sarla Mudgal case. And in these judgments, the court has said that the common civil code should be proceeded towards for national integration and social reform. However, the court has also recognized that there is a need for democratic consensus. Everybody should be on the same page, and gradual reform. You cannot wake up one day and say, oh, we are going to implement UCC. People will not agree to it. The society will not be ready to accept. So there should be gradual reform and democratic consensus. Now, how would UCC work? Now, this is something that is usually lost in political debate. People usually misunderstand this part. So what happens is, normally people think that UCC would mean that Parliament would suddenly abolish all religious customs. Whereas UCC is mainly focused on only civil matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, maintenance that we saw. It is not going to concern itself with religion. It is not going to concern itself with religious rituals. It is not going to tell you how you should do your puja or namaz or Christmas, how you should celebrate it, or whatever your religious rituals are. It is not going to interfere there. It is only going to talk about the civil part of that. So, marriage, divorce, inheritance, etc. So UCC seeks uniformity in only civil laws and not interference in religious practices. So you have freedom to practice your religion, that will still stay the same. Next is, what is the significance of this West Bengal initiative? I'm sure up until now you must have already guessed it, but let's just talk about it. It is a major state level experiment, like we talked about in the experimental federalism. Then it will start debates in other states also. It tests constitutional balance between equality and diversity. India is diverse, yes, but we are also trying to bring in equality for everyone. So it will be like a test of balance between equality and diversity. At the same time, it also highlights how state also have a role to play in policy innovation. It's not like center said something and state will blindly accept it or just follow it. No, state also play a role in policy innovation under Indian federalism, and the eventual shape of the law and extent of public consultation will determine what will be its long-term impacts. Yes, before I go further, my NCERT live classes are going on YouTube, Monday to Friday, every day, 6 p.m. and I hope to see you all there. That is very important for your foundation building. So if you are a student who is preparing your preparation, who is beginning your preparation, or if you are an advanced student but you lack conceptual clarity and conceptual depth, please do join me. Next, now we come to the end of the session where I will give you one prelims practice question for homework, and I will tell you one mains practice question that we will discuss here, and that also you have to write yourself. Okay, so the question says, with reference to Uniform Civil Code in India, consider the following statements. Article 44 of the Constitution forms the constitutional basis for the Uniform Civil Code. Second, marriage, divorce, adoption and succession fail under the state list of the 7th schedule. Third, in case of conflict between a state UCC law and a parliamentary law on concurrent list subject, the state law automatically prevails within that state. And fourth, DPSP are non-justiciable in nature. You have to tell me which of these are correct, and your options are option A, 1 and 2 only, B, 1 and 4 only, C, 1, 2 and 4 only, and D, 1, 3 and 4 only. Now let's move on to the next question. That question I hope you will be answering in the comment section below, and I assure you I always look at your answers and I read your comments. So if you have any suggestions also for the class, or if you want any different classes, different concepts, different topics, I would love to bring them for you. Just type them down in the comment section below. Okay, so main style practice question. The Uniform Civil Code lies at the intersection of equality, secularism and federalism. Discuss the context of recent state level initiative towards implementing UCC. So as you must have guessed from here that this question talks about UCC. So in the introduction, what would you write? In the introduction, you will write what is UCC and how, and you can also add that it is under Article 44, already given under Article 44 in DPSPs. Then in the body part, you have to mention all the dimensions. There are few dimensions given here: equality dimension, secularism dimension and federalism dimension. So you will be mentioning all these three dimensions in the body, right? In the equality dimension, you can mention Article 14. I've just explained it to you, how it helps to bring about equality in society. Gender justice, you can also talk about gender justice here, right? In secularism dimension, you can mention how India works towards secularism in a principled distance manner. So India does not interfere with religion unless some parts of it need to be interfered with for social reform and equality. That is the principle distance principle that India follows in case of Indian secularism, which is the positive secularism. So you can mention it here, right? You can mention about principle distance. You can also mention that positive secularism itself means that equal civil laws should be there for everyone, right? We respect religion, but the part of it that needs to be changed for equality and social reform, that will be interfered with, and UCC only talks about those parts, the civil laws. It does not, here you can also mention that it does not interfere with the rituals or religious rituals, religious practices. So that covers secularism dimension. And the federalism dimension, you can mention here that the experimental federalism that we talked about, laboratory federalism that we talked about, you can mention that here, that how in India, states also work towards innovation in laws and policies. They don't simply follow what center says. So there is a principle of federalism very much functioning in our state, in our India. And you can especially mention that this, because it has asked you about recent state level initiatives, so you can especially mention here experimental federalism or laboratory federalism. And finally, in the conclusion, you can write that we are trying to balance equality with pluralism, because India is a pluralistic society, it's a diverse country. So we try to balance equality with pluralism, something of that sort. That should be your framework. I really hope that you write this answer yourself. As I tell you in every class, I cannot emphasize this enough. Answer writing, prelims practice question and answer writing for mains, both of them are absolutely crucial for your exam preparation along with foundation building. So that's it for today's session. Thank you so much for joining in. Until next time, take care.